Hi students, welcome to Communalism in India. The rising trend of communalism and the accompanying violence have created a feeling of insecurity among the religious minorities and ethnic groups. Muslims and Sikhs in particular fear discrimination and confrontation in the days to come. This may be a fear, but the nation cannot afford to let about 1/6 of the country's population to fall victim to panic, suspicion and insecurity. The events between 1984 and June 1997, Kashmir, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Gujarat, Assam, Andhra Pradesh and Delhi give ample evidence for the destructive outcome of the communal virus in its varied forms. Muslims, Sikhs and other religious minorities in India are protected by the Constitution, which provides for the existence of perfect justice, tolerance, equality and freedom. But for the past few decades, religious fundamentalism, intolerance and narrow-mindedness has increased in various parts of Indian society. Therefore, to prevent damage to the peace and integrity of the nation, there is a need to analyze and debate on the problem of communalism and communal violence. Now, let us discuss about the objectives of this lesson. To discuss about the prescriptive measures to check the communalism in India. Now, let us discuss about the causes of communal violence. Different scholars have approached the problem of communal violence with different perspectives, attributing different causes and suggesting different measures to counter it. The Marxist school relates communalism to economic deprivation and to the class struggle between the haves and the have-nots to secure a monopoly control of the market forces. Political scientists view it as a power struggle. Sociologists see it as a phenomena of social tensions and relative deprivations. The religious experts perceive it as a diadem of violent fundamentalists and conformists. After independence, though our government claimed to follow socialistic pattern of economy, but in practice the economic development was based more on capitalist pattern. In this pattern, on one hand, the development has not occurred at a rate where it could solve the problems of poverty, unemployment and insecurity, which could prevent frustration and unhealthy competition for scarce jobs and other economic opportunities. And on the other hand, capitalist development has generated prosperity only for certain social strata, leading to sharp and visible inequality and new social strains and social anxieties. Those who have benefited or have gained have their expectations soar even higher. They also feel threatened in their newly gained prosperity. Their relative prosperity arouses the social jealousy of those who fail to develop or who decline in power and prestige. The efforts of the government to solve the problems of the religious minorities arouse intense resentment among those prosperous sections of the community who are in numerical majority and who have achieved economic, social and political power through manipulations. They feel that any rise in social scale of the minority community will threaten their social domination. Thus, feelings of suspicion and hostility on the part of both the communities continuously prepare the growth of communalism. Particularly, communalism makes a ready appeal to the urban poor and the rural unemployed, whose number has grown rapidly as a result of lopsided economic and social development and large scale migration to cities. The social anger and frustration of these rootless and impoverished people often find expression in spontaneous violence whenever opportunity arises. A communal right provides a good opportunity for this, but this economic analysis is not considered objective by many scholars. Some scholars have proposed a multiple factor approach in which they give importance to several factors together. 10 major factors have been identified as the causes of communalism. These are social, religious, political, economic, legal, psychological, administrative, historical, local and international. The social factors include social traditions, caste and class ego, inequality and religion based social stratification. Then religious factors include decline in religious norms and secular values, narrow and dogmatic religious values, use of religion for political gains and communal ideology of religious leaders. Then the political factors include religion based politics, religion dominated political organizations, canvassing in elections based on religious considerations, political interference, instigation or support to agitations by politicians for vested interests, political justification of communal violence and failure of political leadership. Then the economic factors include economic exploitation and discrimination of minority religious communities, lopsided economic development, competitive market, non-expanding economy, displacement and non-absorption of workers. The legal factors include absence of common civil code, special provisions and concessions for some communities in the constitution, the special status of certain states, reservation policy and special laws for different communities. The psychological factors include social prejudices, stereotyped attitudes, distrust, hostility and apathy against another community, rumor, fear psychosis and the misinformation or misinterpretation or misrepresentation by mass media. The administrative factors include lack of coordination between the police and other administrative units, ill-equipped and ill-trained police personnel, inept functioning of intelligence agencies, biased policemen and police excesses and inaction. The historical factors include alien invasions, damage to religious institutions, proselytization efforts, divide and rule policy of colonial rulers, partition trauma, past communal rights, old disputes on land, temples and mosques. The local factors include religious processions, slogan raising, rumors, land disputes, local anti-social elements and group rivalries, and lastly the international factors include training and financial support from other countries, mechanizations to disunite and weaken India, and then support to communal organizations. Now let us discuss about prevention of communalism. The prevention of communalism and communal violence require a check on the symptoms of tension building and tension management in riot prone areas. The police has to identify riot prone structures in state, districts and cities where communal riots take place frequently and keep a watch on the various polarity biased clusters of population in the city layouts. Clusters of polarity based populations are not alike. A cluster can be predominantly fundamentalist or liberal or radical or a mixed one. Clusters vary in their occupations, behavioral patterns and response to leadership. Keeping a watch on individuals in different clusters and their militant tendencies and modus operandi is vital for the police to identify sensitive zones, common meeting places, targets of violence, insecure belts, hideouts and shelter places at the time of rioting. Tension management in riot areas requires working out indices in relation to intergroup conflicts. These indices are identification of tension building issues, discovery of group anxieties, treatment of issues and restoration of fractured status, negotiation, mobilization of functional group and stopping of rumors. Rumor management involves isolation of rumor zone, counterbalance, rendering rumor mongers inoperative and sensitizing public administration. Now let us discuss about the prescriptive measures to check the communalism. Measures to meet the challenge of communalism and communal violence can be of two types. One is of long term and another one short term. The long term remedies are: firstly, in initiating the process of decommunalizing the people at all levels, say by bringing home to them that communal assumptions are false, by explaining to them the socio-economic and political roots of communalism, and by telling them that what the communalists project as the problems are not the real problems and what they suggest as remedies are not the real remedies. Secondly, communalization of the state and of the political elite in power has to be checked, because it leads to inaction against communal violence and covert or overt political and ideological support to communalism by the state apparatuses, including the media under state control. Thirdly, the communalization of civil society also needs to be checked, because it leads to more communal rights and other forms of communal violence. People with communal ideas and ideologies pressurize the government to act in a manner which is always against the principle of secularism. The secular state, the secular party in power and the secular power elite many a time succumb to the pressures of these communal people. It is here that intellectuals, political parties and voluntary organizations can be most effective. Fourthly, the role of education, particularly emphasizing on value-oriented education both in schools and colleges or universities, is important in preventing communal feelings. Education based on traditional cultural ideologies can protect the young people from philosophies and ideologies of hate. Particularly harmful in the Indian context has been the role of the teaching of history. Communal interpretation of history, especially of the medieval period, forms the bedrock of communal ideology in India. Teaching of history along scientific lines in educational institution has to be a basic element in any ideological struggle against communalism. Fifthly, the media can also prove to be significant in preventing communal feelings. The communal press can be banned and legal action can be taken against communal writers. Then some immediate measures are imperative for containing communalism. Firstly, peace committees can be set up in which individuals belonging to different religious communities can work together to spread goodwill and fellow feelings and remove feelings of fear and hatred in the right affected areas. Thus, will be effective not only in diffusing communal tension, but also in preventing communal rights from breaking out. Secondly, the state has to plan and adopt new strategies in dealing with communal violence. India's experience in recent years confirms that the utility of this step, whether strong and secular administrators have used or threatened the use of strong steps, rights either did not occur or were of short duration. When the anti-social elements and religious fanatics and people with vested interest realize that the government is impartial and the police is serious in putting down communal violence with all the force at its command, they immediately withdraw from spreading communal frenzy. This also calls for non-communalizing law enforcement agencies. Thirdly, the role of media is immensely heightened during the course of communal violence. The fear and hatred can be checked If the press, radio and TV report the events in a way conducive to soothing the frayed nerves of people instead of inflaming the temper further. The media can contradict rumors in a sober manner. A careful restraint has to be exercised in reporting the number of persons of different religious communities killed or injured. Lastly, the government in power has to treat the extremist communal outfits as its immediate targets and cripple their capacity to disrupt law and order. Communalism is an ideology which divides the society into religious communities whose interests differ and even oppose to each other. The antagonism practiced by the people of one religious community against the people of other religious community can be termed as communalism. Indian society has experienced Hindu-Muslim communalism, Hindu-Sikh communalism and Hindu-Christian communalism during the post-independent period. The main reason for the communalism and communal violence is the increasing communal politics in India. Therefore, the government has to take some stringent measures to check the communal tendencies in Indian society. Decommunalization of the civil society, political elite and political parties is essential to check the communalism in India. Peace committees have to be set up in vulnerable areas to spread goodwill and fellow feelings among the people of all religious communities and diffuse the communal tensions. Government in power has to treat the extremist communal outfits as its immediate targets and cripple their capacity to disrupt law and order.